Yes, you did. Made it weird.
What's happening, weirdos? This is Father Greg Boyle, who was one of my favorite chats, conversations, time spent togethers that I've ever had on this podcast. He is absolutely incredible. He is the founder of Homeboy Industries, which is now my current obsession. I read Tattoos on the Heart. I listened to him on other podcasts. I listened to his talks on YouTube. And now here we are having this conversation I'm so excited to share with you. I would be remiss if I didn't say right here up top, please donate. If we all donated to Homeboy Industries, that would be a huge wave of donations. I'm going to do a benefit for them. I'm going to donate to them as well, do recurring donations to them. I'm such a believer. You're going to hear all about it in this episode. But if you would like to, if your heart is moved, go to homeboyindustries.org and set up even a small recurring or one-time donation just for the pleasure of it. You'll feel good knowing that you're supporting something so beautiful and truly, truly one of a kind and wonderful. Here are some less beautiful plugs, like my stand-up show. Although one of these Largos we're going to do for Homeboy Industries. I'm just trying to coordinate it with Father Greg. But the next one is September 8th. If you'd like to see me do stand-up and you're in the Los Angeles area, go to largo-la.com. We are stacking those shows. Andrew Santino did the last one. River Butcher, Dimitri Martin. I'm forgetting a lot of people, but we always have incredible people. Schumer stopped by. Mulaney has done it. Nick Kroll. It's just always a highlight of my month. So even if you're not seeing this in around September 8th, 2022, we do it every month. We're there every single month, so just go to largo-la.com and look for Pete Holmes Living at Largo. We're also brought to you by some Pete's Picks. I'm wearing one now. Can you get this? Can you see that? Okay. These are perfect jeans. I didn't put these on because we were recording the intro, Katie and I. I put these on because I put these on every morning. Perfect jeans are my favorite pants. They're the most perfectly named pants because the perfect jean is the perfect jean. I hate hard pants, but I don't like pants that look like they're soft, if that makes sense. I want soft pants that look like they're jeans, that pretty much are jeans. They just have 2% spandex and 2.5% rayon for extra comfort and movement that, frankly, it says it right here. I'm going to say it. Your man parts required. It's in the copy. I couldn't pull it off wearing like a yoga pant or like a linen pant. That's just not me. I'm not Sting. I'm not Phil Collins, but I wear jeans every single day. And to have some mobility, basically these are comfortable enough to sleep in. I have slept in them. They are the best pants that I've ever owned, not just because they're stretchy and comfortable, but because they're durable. You know, this area always tears. I'm pointing, for the audio people, I'm pointing to the crotch area. Always tears on my jeans, because I overwear them. Not with the perfect jean. They're so well constructed, maximum durability, constructed utilizing the highest quality materials and sewing techniques. I haven't had to replace a single pair. So I have them in blue, dark blue, I have them in gray, I have them in black. They look fantastic. Val loves them. They last, they stretch, and they're comfy. What else do you need to know? Oh, how about this? The perfect jean for the imperfectly perfect men are just $60 when you use code WEIRDO at checkout. So liberate your lower limbs with the one and only perfect jean. Whether you are working with lemons or lentils, a 3-leaf clover, or a big ol' honkin' eggplant, the perfect jean has you covered. Take a peek at www.theperfectjean.nyc. That's theperfectjean.nyc. No, not genetics. Jeans. And use code WEIRDO for 25% off at checkout. And of course, show your support of the show. Second, and lastly, this is the last ad, then we'll get to Father G. This is my Apollo Neuro. It's a wearable piece of technology that helps my body manage stress. This is the Pete's Pick that I've turned more people onto in real life. I'm shooting a TV show this week 2, 3, maybe even 4 cast members from the show have already used this promo code to buy an Apollo Neuro, because I'm just constantly talking about what a difference it's made in my life. It uses almost sub-perceptual vibrations that help you relax, sleep, focus, and be more productive. It's like a wearable hug for the nervous system, using touch therapy to help you feel safe and in control. It's worn on the wrist or the ankle. Apollo Neuro delivers gentle, soothing vibrations that literally train your nervous system to recover and rebalance after stress. There's energy and wake up, which you could really feel is wonderful before or even during a workout. Social and open is what I have it on right now, because we're about to record an episode. It'll be running the entire episode, just telling my nervous system it's okay, keeping me alert, keeping me open. Clear and focused is wonderful if you have ADD symptoms, if you need to dial in and focus on your work. I use it constantly. Rebuild and recover, I always joke, is what I put it on after I speak to my parents. Just helps your body kind of come back to itself. This is a point in whenever I'm talking about it, I tell people it's not woo-woo. This isn't a crystal. This isn't like syncing up to the stars or something. It is made by a friend of mine. We became friends after I started using it. He is a board-certified neuroscientist and psychiatrist. They've been studying the impacts of chronic stress in humans for nearly 15 years. The more you use it, the better it works. It's not a mood ring. Apollo's effects on stress, sleep, cognitive performance, and recovery have been proven in multiple clinical trials and real-world studies, and there are more on the way. I really love it. Sincerely wear it constantly. I literally charge it when I'm in the shower, because that's the only time I'm not wearing it and pretty much not using it. So you can get 10% off and show your support of the show by going to apolloneuro.com/weird. That's APOLLONEURO.com/weird for 10% off and feel better with just something you wear. Val wears hers on her ankle, so if you don't want to, I'm an Enneagram 4, so I like people being like, what's that? And I'm like, let me tell you. Anyway, enjoy. Father, Greg Boyle. Check out Tattoos on the Heart. Check out his other books. And if you don't want to buy something, just go on YouTube and get ready to cry. It's literally become my routine, is watching one of his talks in the morning, listening to his book on the way to work, weeping in the car. And then I just remember to be tender and loving all day. It makes a huge, huge difference in helping me remember to be the person I want to be in this world. So I hope you enjoy this chat. I know we did. Get into it. Okay, well, we just lost a little bit of a recording, but I can remember what we were saying. One, I'm so thrilled you're here. I could say that faster.
Sure.
I said it a little bit more sweetly before, right?
That's okay.
But I was saying that it's these episodes that I cherish and I get the most excited about. So I just want you to feel welcome. That's really just the point.
I do. Thank you.
But I want them to know that I made you feel welcome, to be honest as well. And I was saying that I was just at the Montreal Comedy Fest, and it was so much comedy. I'm just going to repeat it. There's that Simpsons episode where Homer goes to hell and they say, you like donuts. How about all the donuts in the world? It's funny watching you have to re-listen to me say this. It's very showbiz. You're doing very well. And that's a little bit, it was like, do you like comedy? How about all the comedy in the world?
Yeah.
And then I said, I think it says something about how my brain works. Whatever's in front of me becomes my reality. And that's good and bad. It can be bad because if all that's in front of me is my ego and my persona and my value is earned by getting laughs, I can get a little depraved. Depraved, not in a bad way. I just mean like my tank gets empty. Yeah. And I would go on walks and listen to Richard Rohr and stuff, but it wasn't enough. I needed like a full day off to just reconnect. So I've been really looking forward. Yeah. And I listened to you and I watched you and I felt like I was coming home, like I was coming back to myself, as opposed to the Pete that I sell. Yeah. And that I'll bring to a location for a fee. I started to remember the present moment. I started to remember my identity in God, I guess we could say. Yeah. My center. Not, I'm only as good as my last show. So I'm coming to you in a very...
And you just got in.
And I just got in. I got in last night at about midnight, and I'm really excited to see you. So this is doubly exciting. One, not to put the onus on you, but like I need just as brothers, a reconnect.
Yeah.
Just sitting with you is helping. And I also was curious how you do with that. How do you keep the line open, to your, we could say soul, or just to your center, or to your, what it is like I forget I'm beloved when I get lost in the game of like, well, are you on the poster? Did you get the deal? Did you get the standing ovation? Like you start to forget that you were born accepted.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how do you remember, as you've done such a great job telling other people that they are beloved children, how do you remember that?
Well, in recovery, they talk about one day at a time, but I think that's way too long. I think it's like a minute. It's like, then you kind of get to every breath, because we're addicted to once and for allness. Like, okay, I've vowed to do this, or I want to be loving, or I've decided to have my practice. But, it's like, you think it's once and for all.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Which is it's addict thinking, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm an addict, and I tend to be very black and white.
Yeah.
I'm either in or I'm out.
Yeah. But then if you kind of connect it to every breath, cherish with every breath. And then but it's hard to do. That's your practice. So it's like you meditate in the morning or something, or you have your space and your time, and you go, well, now I'm good to go.
Is that what you do?
Well, that's what I do, but you're not good to go, because an hour into your day, you want to throttle somebody. And so that's just kind of, but that's why I think it's important. The practice has to be connected to every breath. You cherish with every breath is what I kind of.
Cherish with every breath.
Yeah.
As you're saying it, Katie was struggling to turn that off, and I'm like, no, you did great.
One button.
I know.
What do I do with the one button?
There is no judgment there, but I'm like, again, what's in front of me is what's happening. So Katie's trying to figure that out. And I'm like, and you're telling me this beautiful thing.
It's okay.
Right. I know. But if there's anything the podcast is about, it's about being honest, being like, yeah, I hear you. And I'm like, it's the one button, Mark Power, the on-off button. It's like how quickly, but even in my language, how quickly we can lose it. When we're talking about a connection to the divine, is there something to owning and accepting and loving our frustration or our anger or everything being welcome, even in ourselves? The forgiveness we have for reality we extend to ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do that, and you kind of, that's the aerial view, but you have to kind of bring yourself back to the present moment, and how you do that is connect with your own, breath. Just, now hear this is kind of a mantra I have.
Now hear this.
Now hear this. Now hear this. Kind of like you would have on those old movies on a.
Now hear this.
Yes, on a
Eisenhower removes troops from Ecuador.
Like on a steam, some kind of warship or something.
Oh, yeah.
But it's kind of now hear this, as in periods after each thing. Now hear this. And I will say that as somebody is coming into my office and I'm preoccupied or I'm worried, or how am I going to get to this next thing, and I have to see this guy first. And so I kind of do a little now hear this, which keeps you here with this person, listening as intently as you can, cherishing with every breath, and choosing to do that. It's hard, but I think that's what the practice is. We think the practice is limited to whatever it is you do. Like in the morning I pray, I sit. But if the practice isn't a 24/7 now hear this, then I don't know how you can, you can't sustain it.
Yeah.
And you think that's it. I'm good for the day.
Right.
I
tick the box.
Yeah, but it doesn't work. It works for, 5 minutes after you've been sitting.
Yeah. I actually find that to be very true. I can have moments of pick your human thing, extreme lust or anger or greed or just pettiness. 10 minutes after I had a sit or a walk in the woods. I mean, give me the best of the best, a walk in the woods. And then 10 minutes later, I might just be like, I can't stand that person's face. Just like immediately. But you're saying go eat, go gentle on yourself, and we all need it right now.
Yeah.
Even though we just talked about it, maybe I need it right now.
Well, because you're always trying to return to yourself and to your anchor and your center, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
And so how do you return? Kind of in a...
And you're saying the breath.
I think that's kind of what I do that's your intentionality, because the homies will always say to each other at Homeboy Industries, like when the homies who kind of run the place now, and somebody fights, and fights happen, and then they'll call the person in and say, well, he said this to me, No, you allowed him to take you to that place. So the idea of being taken to that place, whatever that means, and we all kind of have a sense of it, you have to kind of stay absolutely anchored in the core of your being. Otherwise, you're going to get taken to that place by how annoying that person is or how frustrating he is. And this is the 9th time you've asked him to cut that shit out, and then all of a sudden you've been taken to that place. So I don't know how else, what's the remedy to that human thing? It doesn't mean that it's bad necessarily to be taken to that place, but you don't want to lose your center.
Yeah. I say this on the pod all the time, but it's not like when you're doing a task, 1/10 of it is the task and 9/10 is staying connected to your, we could say again, the center. That's not what the quote says, but
yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that self-forgiveness, again, having been at this festival, and I am not an Enneagram 1, but I want everything to go well. I want to do my job well. And in fact, if I'm being honest, if you'd like a glimpse into my ego, I want to do the best. I want to do better than everybody else on the show.
Yeah, well, sure.
And sometimes if I don't, my friend Laura Bites was like, you just talk to your child self and go, you don't have to be perfect all the time. It's like,
what are you again?
I'm a 3 wing 4. Although Richard thinks I'm a 7.
Okay, but so this is the thing, because I know you.
Tell me.
Well, you know it better than I do, and Richard knows it better than anybody does. But I think there's people will say I'm a 2. I feel like an 8. But the thing says I'm a 7. So I don't know. But I think I would suspect that everybody says, people say I'm this.
Yes.
I feel like that.
Yes.
But the test says I'm this.
Yeah.
I mean, is that true?
Well, Mirabai thinks I'm a 4. I mean, but so for people that don't know what we're talking about the Enneagram, and the 7 is the enthusiast. And when Richard says you're a 7, I'm like, I'm enthusiastic about you. Like I'm I'm clamoring at his words and everything. So of course I look like a 7, but then I'm like, you should see what I just told you. The 3 wants to do better and actually embarrass their competitors almost. Like I'm not proud to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
But my favorite movie is There Will Be Blood, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? It's like 7s don't love There Will Be Blood. They love Amelie. They don't want to watch a movie about a guy climbing to his mansion where he dies alone. That's the movie of a 3. Even though he's humiliated in the process, we don't care. We're like, my personality still goes like, you should do that. Get away from everybody and succeed. Let me ask you this about our breath and staying in it. And I heard you speaking about delighting. We could go back to the Enneagram if you like, but delighting in the moment and in who's in front of you, and that being a big thing. How much of that is mental and how much of that is stopping thinking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what you said, one of the ways you don't tire at your work is you just take it who's in front of you,
right,
and give yourself to them, and don't try to get them, but make sure they can get you. And you kept using the word delight, like find the delight. Like I'm finding the delight in you, right? How much of that is a mental thing where you think, okay, Greg, don't forget, find the delight, or are you trying to get it into the cellular level where you're just...
Well, it's a decision. You have to choose to delight. And then I think we would both agree that there's some people you're with, you go, wow, this person's amazing and a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And maybe easy to delight in. But then there's the intentionality to, I'm going to, duty to delight is what Dorothy Day used to talk about, where she chooses. But it's a duty to delight, which say it's a...
I've never heard that. Duty
it's
to
intentionality. Delight. I think she got it from Ruskin, but it's you choose to delight in the person in front of you. It's more like attention. It doesn't mean that it's you're dying of laughter with every person. It's not about laughter. It's about choosing, deciding to kind of see this person as God does, to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
So then you're getting underneath. The homies always talk about finding the thorn underneath, which is kind of allows you to be merciful and to say, this violence, that guy who just disrupted the apple cart by fighting in our lobby, what language is that violence speaking? Because you want to get underneath it.
The thorn is the thing.
It's the thing, the wound, the pain, what's broken right now.
I heard you talking about that. And for those that don't know, you work with recovering gang members or gang members.
Gang members, yeah.
We'll just say gang members.
Well, I mean, it kind of is. I although we've never said recovering gang members, but that's kind of what it is, Well,
I've heard you compare it to alcoholics.
Yeah. I mean, it's about recovery, but it's about attachment repair. It's about restoration. It's about discovering the truth of who they are, that they're exactly right, and they've always been right, but they haven't lived from that place yet, and wait until you taste that.
Yeah.
That
they belong.
That they belong, and then you do it. It's not something I don't transform anybody, but transformation happens there.
Yeah.
And, and it's a place where people, feel cherished. And that's how the world changes, when enough people feel cherished.
Love or lack of it, as Fred Rogers said, is the the root of all problems.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Tell people a little bit. I know I'm making you repeat yourself, but this is show business.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. I want to show people what you do. What do we get wrong about gang violence, just as a way to start, and then we'll go wherever we go?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's about a lethal absence of hope, and so people think it's bad people doing bad things, but
the Middle East, I heard you. People think it's like, these two groups.
Well, I kind of say that it's not like the Middle East.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, where it's conflict,
right? But it's not,
or Northern Ireland or something.
Right.
It's not about anything. It's an indication of that people aren't able to imagine a future because they're so in pain and traumatized.
The violence is a symptom.
A symptom. It's an indicator. It's the cough that tells you you're allergic to your cat,
Right. Forgive me for quoting you, but it's like the alcoholic saying, I would stop if only my lady would come back, if only my wife came back.
Yeah.
But you're like, actually, you need to be rehabilitated.
Yeah.
And in your case, you've already said it, you need to be cherished.
Yeah, so it's not rehabilitation is kind of a word. I'm trying to think words I don't use too much, because it's like you're returning to what, It's right. I mean, healing is kind of a different thing. So the day will come, hopefully, when we stop punishing wound and we seek to, heal it. And the largest mental institution on the planet Earth is LA County Jail. So that kind of indicates,
wow,
how we're doing,
What I sometimes think about this, like, what will the legal system look like in 2177 or something? And with the advancements we're making with psychology and brain, chemistry and all these things. Meaning, this is an extreme example, but I'd love to hear your response to it. The sniper in Texas, one of the earliest mass shootings, wrote in his suicide note, he's like, a month ago, I started feeling differently, and I had all these, irrepressible urges, and please examine my brain. Basically, I donate my brain to science.
Yeah.
And they found a tumor in the part of his brain that controlled those types of impulses. And then you're like, well, this is a big question, and feel free to pass, but I'm sure whatever you have to say will be fascinating. Where is accountability? I mean, when you start looking at interconnectedness, you see that nobody's just acting. Nobody's a splinter cell. They're not by themselves. They're products of their environment. And what do we do with accountability? Where would Jesus be with accountability, with holding somebody accountable for what they did?
Yeah, I don't know why we, as a culture, we're kind of That's a big thing, accountability and responsibility. And we feel like we can't hold these, two thoughts at the same time, but the truth is you want to be able to get at what this was about. David Brooks wrote recently about the Uvalde killer, in saying that, he was not, it was not mental illness because he was never diagnosed with mental illness. I go, well, so, we missed it.
Have you met my family?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you want to say, nobody healthy in the history of the world has ever done such a thing. So I don't know. And presumably people die of cancer and perhaps they were never diagnosed.
Sure.
It doesn't mean they didn't die of cancer.
Right.
Like, for example, I don't want to defund the police, but isn't everybody longing for the day when policing is obsolete and our prisons are empty? I think that's a good thing to long for that. So, in the same way that Jesus saw the guy having seizures and he says he's possessed by a demon. Well, no, he has epilepsy. So we know something today. He was wrong. I love Jesus, but he was wrong. It was epilepsy. Here's a pill. So I would like to think that we're in a different place now,
yes,
where you have the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, and you go, everybody walks through the doors at Homeboy is a 9 or a 10 on the ACEs. I'm a 0 on the ACEs.
What is the ACEs?
ACEs are the adverse childhood experiences. So it's a checkoff thing of 10 things. Parents were addicted, father was in prison, I was sexually abused, I was physically abused, I was neglected. It's all these things that children are exposed to. And if you're a 4 or 5, experts would say, you chances are you're going to have difficulty socializing and even have physical health problems. So I'm a 0, I grew up not far from where we're talking right now and wonderful parents and great siblings and privileged and educated, et cetera, and won all the kind of the lotteries that people win and some people don't. So I'm a 0 on the ACEs, but every homie and homegirl is a 9 or a 10.
Wow.
Which is extraordinary.
But that sounds like a diagnosis. You're like, look, this is what's happening.
Well, it kind of opens the door. So it's not, morality has never kept us moral. It's kept us from each other. And so this isn't about morality. So then you have to let go a little bit of accountability and responsibility. A little bit. People need to be stopped. People need to be held accountable. And explaining doesn't excuse stuff. It just helps you, prevent it from happening again, I think. Where you can kind of say, well, what's this about? What's it mean? What's it pointing to? What could we have done? What if his mom didn't put cigarettes out on him or hold his head in the toilet and flush till he nearly drowned? What if we could have intervened? All that stuff, I think, is helpful. It doesn't let people off the hook.
Right. This is where you get the cliche, the system failed them, right? It's not just they did it, but it's like the whole
community.
Broken.
It's community. Again, what would we have done? What would we have caught? Like with the Uvalde, I don't know very much about him, the Uvalde shooter, but you can go back to all of them. The 4th of July shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. All of them, they all have the same kind of, what would you have done? How would we have paid attention to this person who was clearly in pain? Nobody healthy does this.
Right. I've heard you say that. It's like if you give a gang member a reason to get up tomorrow, they won't be wandering the streets, I'm oversimplifying, but looking for someone to shoot. Walking in the wrong neighborhood, looking for trouble, I guess we could say.
Or hoping to die. We think they're hoping to kill, but they're actually hoping to die.
That's so. Pete Rollins, Pete Rollins?
Yeah.
He had this very cool idea, I thought, about a genie. And there's a genie, but he only grants unconscious wishes. So most people that go to this genie just evaporate because most people unconsciously desire annihilation. And I was like, isn't that brilliant?
Yeah.
I was like, whoo. I'm actually trying to have some solidarity here. Like we have the gang members, and you have me, and sometimes we feel the same way. You know what I mean? Like you have this unconscious desire to vanish because you get overwhelmed or you get afraid or you feel unsupported or whatever it might be.
And also people carry more than others, and it's not fair. I mean, I've never had to carry what I just came from a funeral of a young woman who was killed, and
This morning?
And she used to work at Homeboy a long time ago. She was like 27. And I've never had to carry what she had to carry, you know, in terms of parents and degree of difficulty and trying to navigate her life. And so I don't know. I mean, I rather than, you know, the morality of it and kind of wag your finger at it, I mean, the homies have taught me that from day one, you know.
Tell me.
Well, they've taught me about, you know, how do you stand in awe at what people have to carry rather than in judgment. Mm-hmm. And so you see the kinds of things that they've had to navigate in their lives. Huge difficulties and unspeakable things have been done to them.
Yeah.
And again, this doesn't excuse violence, but sensible people want to explain it, at least get at it and kind of go, well, how can we help? You know, like the bodhisattva kind of notion, how not just to relieve suffering, but how could we be helpful here, you know, as a society?
Yeah. I was going to say, isn't there something, I see us both doing our best to be like, look, there's a place for accountability and justice, and there's times when people need to be, you know, removed from a situation, let's just
stopped.
say.
I always say stopped.
I like stopped, thank you.
Yeah.
You can see me trying my best not to say the wrong thing, but I like stopped. But I often think like God's love doesn't please our mind either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think God's liberal, the way that I see God as the yes or the piece of paper everything is written on, we don't even like all the things God loves, you know, or that God allows. Reality. We don't like reality. And
like
yet,
we don't agree with God, you know, I mean,
right.
In terms of, so I read a bishop the other day, again, talking about Uvalde, and he was trying to be sympathetic to the community that suffered so much. And he says, as scripture tells us, God stands with the victims and not the victimizers. Mm. And I put it down, it was in a newspaper, and I went, maybe he could well prove that, I guess, that's what scripture says. But it's not the God I believe in, you know? And so like our mutual friend Mirabai Stark talks about it, you know, once you know the God of love, you fire all the other gods. And so I go, yeah, no, I don't believe in that God for a second. Even if he could prove that scripture says that's true. I mean, you know, you and I can have compassion for the person who did this. And in what universe is God less compassionate than we are?
You're stealing a thought right from my probably 15, 16 when I was starting to deconstruct. I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
But I was like, if I couldn't even talk about it publicly, but in my own love thought experiments, if I could find compassion, how am I lapping God?
Yeah, exactly. How am I lapping God?
I just lapped God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great image. Because that's exactly the problem. Because all of a sudden, your God is too puny.
Well, to talk a little bit about that, if you would. You, again, I'm going to keep quoting you, but you said, I said something similar. I wrote an episode of The Simpsons. I was quoting Richard, but it was, my character gave a sermon on The Simpsons, and I was like, we've made a God like us. We made God in our image instead of the other way around. We're supposed to be, and I was like, when you look at all the different types of flowers, really I'm just saying the rain falls on the just and the unjust, the same thing.
Yeah.
When you see this like grotesquely liberal love, it doesn't, like, I'm going back to we don't want rain to fall on the thorns, but there it is.
Yeah.
Would you talk about like we made a God in our image because we want to be worshipped, so we think God wants to be worshipped?
That's how we project, you know. Annie Lamott always says, you've created God in your own image when God hates the same people you do, And
So
but
good.
that's the same notion that Richard always talks about. Yes, we're created in God's image, and our image of God creates us. And so I think we're doomed in a way that if your God is puny, you can't be otherwise. Yeah. But if your God is spacious and expansive, then that gives you room to be that way as, as inclusively as you can be. Mm. So, I mean, I attribute in my own growth, the homies have taught me this because, you had people saying these are just pure evil. And I don't believe in evil. I believe in horrible and terrible. But I don't use the word evil because it creates the very distance that God wants us to bridge. And so I don't believe it. And I just think if we say evil, it just means we're not even trying, And I just don't. So I stopped doing it. Even sin, like the mystics kind of go,
love God and do what you will.
Yeah, I mean, Julian of Norwich specifically talks about sin is kind of, oh God, it doesn't have any substance. That's how she said it. And I agree with that. Once you know trauma, once you're trauma informed, what are we talking about sin? It's not very helpful. It worked, and that's the thing.
It worked.
I mean,
and then it's true in our culture.
The truth was, I remember a guy got up in San Francisco, and he was a gang conference, and I spoke at it, and he spoke at it, and he was pounding on the podium about some program, and he said, "Listen, people, this works." And I remember in my program I wrote, "Yeah, but I bet it doesn't help." But later on, I read that. I go, what was that about? I go, not everything that works helps, but everything that helps works. But our upbringing, I think, we were kind of sold all that stuff because it worked. And did it work? My ass was in church every Sunday because I thought it would go to hell. Mm-hmm. Yes, it worked. But did it help? Not by a long shot, not even close.
Yeah.
And so Homeboy Industries has sort of taught me that. If you do the thing that helps, it works. That's kind of a byproduct. But not everything that works helps. And so the decision is do the thing that helps. It's about invitation. Like I think we're being invited to stuff. And it's joy. My joy, yours, your joy complete. It's not about cut that shit out.
Right.
It's about, hey, come over here. This is where the joy is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we're sitting at the same table, and I love it. I liken it to the everybody poops thing. It's like it's very easy to sell something when you're. Can you remember? I remember being a kid and even thinking the fact that I went to the bathroom was kind of questionable. You know what I mean? Being like, am I okay? I have poop coming out of my blood 3 times. Like not clean. Yeah. Not broken. I knew I was okay, but I was like, I'm a beast. I'm some sort of beast. And then forget it when I hit puberty and now I'm blind. Like I can't even, you know how your brain can't recall pain? I think it also, like it can't actually recreate pain in your mind. It's a preservation technique. I also think you can't remember how horny you were when you were 12. Right. Like you think you do, but you don't.
You don't because it was so awkward and you didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah, you delete it like women delete childbirth. Right. You're just like, forget it. Men delete how horny they were when they were 12. So when you throw that in the mix, but I'm just saying like if you want to hook somebody, there was a movie called Selling God. It wasn't a perfect movie, but it was a good movie, a documentary. And it was like, it's very basic marketing. Create a need. Okay, you're born sinful. Then create urgency. You're going to die. And you either go, we're back to that binary in out, good, bad, heaven, hell thing. Right. And then, of course, that's going to work. And what I'm hearing you say, and tell me if you agree, it's a Richard Rohr point, but he goes, in our country, we think if it works, it's true. So, for example, I was just talking to somebody about Marvel movies, and I like Marvel movies. This isn't shots fired against Marvel movies. But take any environmentalist, nobody's going like, what is the environmental footprint of making a Marvel movie? And I've been on the set of movies, You might blow up a car 28 times, but it doesn't matter because it makes $100 billion.
Yeah.
Or there's probably way worse things, trucks, millions of trucks, carbon emission, all that stuff. But no one in their right mind would go against something that's huge and profitable because it works.
Yeah.
So it must be true.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is just because scaring people into God works, puts butts in seats.
Right.
As Richard would say, it also keeps the clergy employed.
Right.
Because we need you to clean us
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah. Unless you can kind of, like I think it was the gospel on Sunday where it's, the rich guy who kind of builds the tower to hold all his grain and everything. And then he go, what a fool, because tonight you're going to die.
Yeah.
And now what good is it?
Yeah.
And so Jesus tells that parable, but the last line.
There's so many that are they're like Chris Rock jokes.
Yeah.
They really are. It's
yeah,
like,
where
that's,
they kind of.
that's fierce.
It is. But the last line is about, growing rich in the things that matter to God. So, so I'm preaching on that. I don't care about all that. This isn't about bank accounts. This is about growing rich. So if you kind of distill the thing, it says, cut that shit out. Don't be greedy. Don't, stop that.
Mm.
But the last line is about growing rich in the things that matter. Well, that's the thing that's the invitation. So my insight was find the invitation because it's always inviting you to joy, not to cut that shit out, And so you want to find the joy. If people think that being a Christian, for example, is like some grim duty, but it's really kind of where the joy is, at least for me.
Yeah.
At the margins with folks who are struggling, you go, wow, this must be hard. I go, no, that's where the joy is. I feel kind of selfish.
I believe you. And if there's anything I can offer you that's unique for me is I was just at a smoke blowing festival where you blow smoke up my ass, I blow smoke up your ass, and we all walk around. As Ramdas would say, I see your outfit, I see your disguise, and I validate that it's real. Do you see my disguise and validate that it's real?
Yeah.
We all just go around telling each other that our masks are on straight, and you really are Pete Holmes. And I go, and you really are that. And here's an award, and here's a special headlining gala or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I just want to you don't seem to need encouragement, but I believe everybody enjoys it. It doesn't work. I'm not saying it's a paradox. On one hand, I'm so grateful that I get to do something so rare and so uniquely lined up with my talents being comedy. But in the other hand, I'm going I think in the same verse, Jesus says, don't store your treasure where moth and rust can corrupt.
That's right.
So the real shit, and I get intoxicated. I get seduced, like salt and light, flavor and illumination. Like these are sexy things. These are alluring things. And when I get them, and when you know them, when you hear them, I'm saying like it's not just a duty spirituality. It actually makes me start inflating again because I was just at a place where all we were doing was, filling up a silo when we were going to die that night.
Yeah, but it's also your gift, And so you're not diminishing your gift.
No.
Because you understand, and then how necessary it is for people to laugh and to kind of be lost in some kind of moment where you just say, well, that was a good use of my time.
Yes.
But then there's all the other stuff that
I'm talking about the badges and the who said what to me. And it's a real orgy of that.
It's tough. It's got to be tough.
So Richard has a line where he goes, life isn't about you, you are about life.
Yeah.
And every morning I would say, the festival's not about me, I'm about the festival. I'm one of the co-creators of this joyful thing that people need and all that stuff. But if I didn't take that moment, I know the depression you get. We actually kind of become immune. Someone could go, you're the greatest thing in the world, and you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
So enough about me. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about what is the real treasure? What is the pearl of great price and all that? And how do you identify it and how do you commune with it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same for everybody. You know, I mean, it's how do you? It's the what is same. I think is to find your true self in loving, and then you love being loving. So it's not about return. It's not about if anybody loves you back, then you don't even care because that's the kind of God we have, who could give two shits whether you love them back. We don't believe that because our DNA says.
I'm a bad boy.
Yeah, and it also says that God says, as I have loved you, love me back. Though you won't find that anywhere, really.
Yeah.
God says, as I have loved you, so must you have a special preferential care and love for the widow, orphan, and the stranger. It's so not what we expect.
Yeah.
You know, it's about loving folks who the world says we can live without you. And so then you kind of go, wow, that's the kind of God we have. That's the kind of love I want to be. And then you try it on for size and you go, wow, this is the most joy I've ever known. You know, so I think it's like that. I bet, but not that everybody does the same thing, you know. And
do you see a corollary with fulfilling your life's purpose, lining up your talents, plugging into a community, and sort of waking up to your connection?
Yeah, but you know, so because I listen to you, you know, so I know Leela and Val, and that's your connective tissue to tenderness and on an ongoing, intimate way.
Yes.
And you are in possession of your gift, you know, which there's nothing that's holy. To kind of say, well, I'm going to use my gift. Sometimes it means it here. Sometimes it means on the road. Sometimes it's a filmed thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's this.
Yeah.
You know, and you go, yeah, I'm good at this. It's okay to find the thing you're good at. I mean, that's not like counter.
Well, that's something
to anything.
I've brought up to David Nichtern, who's a great Buddhist teacher and my friend, and I was saying, I find it very strange, or I used to, that I would do stand-up. But think of what I'm saying. I'm connecting with 300 people and really becoming like one thing. And then after that, I really feel vanished. Like you'd think I'd be the most Pete Holmesy I've ever been, but afterwards I actually feel.
What do you mean by vanish?
Anchored in my true self, I guess you could say, in the oneness of things.
Yeah.
Meaning I get like a spiritual, it's cheap to call it a kick, but I feel calm, I feel centered, I feel loved, and I feel loving. The joke Val and I make about Leela is if she ever wants something, she just has to ask me after I get off stage. You know what I mean? It's because I don't, that's the most open-hearted place. So to go back to what we were saying, when I went into comedy, my church, my mom's friend who had the gift of prophecy, they said, wrote me a letter about the dangers of going into something so evil. And what a strange journey it's been to come to this other side. And I go, that's the unlikely place God was actually hiding. And Richard would say that's the only way God gets us to do anything is he dangles what you want and sort of sabotages you or surprises you. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, I think absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I think people don't really find the thing that they're good at, you know? There's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, you're a slave to, you know, somebody else's expectations or something.
I wonder how many of the homies, I have to think they're funny homies.
Oh, my God.
Funny gang members. Because can I say that one of the points of comedy, you'd be shocked, especially when I'm working it out and trying to find out what I'm going to do, how much it's just funny to remind people that they're going to die. There's this real there's something really funny about that silo bit. Yeah. The guy that puts all his grain away and then he died that night. That's a joke.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people laughed. On this podcast, I've called the prodigal son Jesus' closer. Like that's the big finish. Yeah. And that's a good opener, the silent one.
We all have openers, we all have closers, we all have the as the homie called it, you have to pepper your talk with self-defecating humor. And then so you do, but it's actually true. You have to kind of be kind of disparaging.
Lower yourself a little
bit so that people can go, oh, okay, well, he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was kind of a good advice,
Mm-hmm. So you lit up when I said they're funny homies. I just wonder how many of them would be great comedians.
Oh my God, they're just amazing. It's one of the counter things when people say, this must be hard bearing kids, and that is. But life isn't hard there. It's hilarious. People, we're in a group in my office and a bunch of navigators and a woman, she goes, well, today's my 10th anniversary of my marriage. And I said, wow. And I know them both, and both gang members. And somebody had recently had a kind of a minor stroke where one of the homies, the older guy, had some paralysis in his hand. So we were talking about that. And her man had a stroke a couple of years ago. And she was saying, I remember when he had a stroke, and I asked him in the hospital when he came to, do you remember who I am? And he goes, yes. He nods and says, yes. And I said, fuck. The whole room died. We fell out of our chairs. And it was kind of a testament to how much they get on each other's nerves.
Yes.
But they were also quite, it was very kind of telling about how everybody just enjoyed it. They just kind of, hilarious. I mean, you should come by sometime.
I would love to.
And in no time you will see how smart, witty, quick, fast.
It's, the reason I'm not surprised is it's people who are in touch with reality or with the absurd. When I say absurd, I don't mean bad, but the cosmic joke, the sort of like the fragility, all of that stuff breeds comedy. Like people who need to make themselves feel better, that need that hit, that endorphin, and need to see who's with them. Like they're these little sonar pings of like, who thinks like me? Is there anything funnier than just calling out like what a scary situation that was?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Am I the only one that I was shitting my pants? And people laugh, and you need it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing my whole life is going
But,
around.
so like we have tours all the time. We have probably 6 groups all the time. And I heard a homegirl giving a tour and overheard her because I never give tours, but the homies give the tours. And at one point she chose to say, here at Homeboy, we laugh from the stomach. And I went, wow, that's exactly right. As opposed to some kind of superficial thing, laughing from the stomach.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the law and the prophets right there.
That is it.
To be able to do that, because everybody knew exactly, and now we say it a lot, when you comment on the quality of the laughter, everybody was laughing from the stomach, which is not a thing I'd ever heard before.
Yeah.
But as soon as I heard it, I went, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
From your deepest, most holy place, that's how our people are laughing.
Do you have to, I'm just embarrassed that I'm just so unfamiliar with your world that I'm worried about embarrassing myself and asking a dumb question. But when I'm with comedians that are from the projects or whatever, there's a language of, like the jokes take on a different level. It's like, can I hang?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that you're being tested if you can hang? I have to imagine yes, in lots of different ways.
Well, but see, I've been doing this for almost 40 years, so I got the jargon and I understand,
But do you ever make fun of, do you ever do snaps and stuff?
I think we all do it. And it's like, you can kind of get into that mode, A comedian I know is Felipe Esparza. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, no, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah. He won what's that comedian show?
Last Comic Standing?
Yeah, he won that and gave half the money to Homeboy. And
no way.
Yeah, he was homie from the projects, and he's had HBO specials.
That's net, not gross.
Yeah,
You give
yeah.
half away because the taxes are half too.
Yeah.
Go on.
But he grew up in the projects. Was was at Homeboy. Publicly talks about his own recovery and addiction and stuff. And I sent him to rehab. And but he'll do comedy in the early days, stuff about growing up in the projects, which hilarious for all of us, folks who are kind of familiar with it,
But you go ahead.
But so then, so I don't know. I get it.
But do
only
you make
because
fun
I've been
of yourself? Do you call yourself corny or make fun of yourself for being a white guy or whatever it might be?
But see, it's funny. It's kind
is
of
that not
more
the
of
angle?
it's not a thing. I don't think it's, which I think people disqualify themselves all the time. They think, how could I possibly be a beneficial presence at Homeboy Industries as a volunteer, for example?
Yeah.
Because I'm white and I come from privilege or whatever. But that's the kind of the great liberation, is knowing that if you're the proud owner of a pulse, and if you, can you love people? Can you be reached by people? Can you receive people? Can you cherish people? Well, then you don't have to be
their color.
You don't have to be a gang member or their color.
Yeah.
And I think that's the great liberation, because they feel like only gang members can connect to gang members.
Yeah, I mean, that is what I'm talking about. I don't want to be embarrassed, but that is what I was thinking. And I think it's okay. I bet a lot of people think that.
But it happened in the old days, in the early days when I was doing shuttle diplomacy in the projects, and you were trying to kind of get rival gangs to talk to each other. Before I realized that supplied oxygen to gangs and was probably not a good thing. But we would meet with gang members who were kind of, hardcore gang intervention workers. They were trying to, and there was always that moment that came, and I'm a white priest among all these African-American and Latino, gang outreach workers. And then they would say, I think the homies are going to listen to us more than they're going to listen to you. And I'd always say the same thing. I go, well, if the task is talking to gang members, you're right. But if the task is listening to them, who can't do this? If the task is receiving them or allowing your heart to be altered by them, who can't do that?
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because Val, there's a chance you heard me say this, but I sometimes struggle even just watching a movie where people are foolish or uneducated. Really, it's hard for me. It might be scapegoating, but I really feel like I was conditioned to go, well, that's ridiculous and uncomfortable. And if I even sympathize with it, I'm somehow aligning with this weakness. And the reason I'm asking, the joke is...
Well, give an example of that.
I'll give you an example. Boogie Nights, I love Paul Thomas Anderson, but I really struggle with watching Boogie Nights because I can't stand watching a kid get into porn, start doing cocaine, go to a guy's house with guns and almost die.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, again, I will not be made a fool of, so this man is a fool and I disown him. And I can't even enjoy the movie. And Val was like, you just have to watch it from a neutral place, from a spacious place, and just, this is okay, this is what's happening.
But you watch it from a place that says, how could you be so stupid?
That's what I'm doing.
And you watch it from a place that maybe says something about, morally out of whack.
And I don't want to admit that I am, it's another core negative belief, is that I'm stupid or that I am weak, or as my mother would say, carnal, that I would do cocaine or that I would be in pornography. Yeah. But of course, there's of course a part of me that would love to do cocaine and be in pornography. Yeah. But I can't even get over that hump. So my question is, I finally learned how to watch Boogie Nights, and now I like it quite a bit more.
Can appreciate it.
I can appreciate it. But when you're dealing with real people, I guess it's a silly question, but how do we open our hearts more? How do we turn off the judgment? I feel my father's voice, who's a loser and who's not a loser, and guilt by association, all these things that the temptation that when you're talking to a homie and they walk away and you go like, yikes, or whatever it is, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, how do you, is it just by
No,
rote?
That's a good question, I think. But I think it's also, again, part of your practice is to cultivate what St. Ignatius, who founded the Jesuits, whose feast day was yesterday, when and he used to talk about, he has a word in Spanish called acatamiento, and it means affectionate awe. And it's kind of it's a stance in the world. So the opposite of that is judgment. And you want to get as far away from judgment as you can.
I'm just writing down affectionate awe. Because
affectionate awe. And so I always talk about awe, but then I ran across this word that he used in the last 12 years of his life, and he kept using it in his spiritual journal. And then he went back and he circled it. And the word was acatamiento. And it comes from the word acatar, which means to look at something with attention, which is kind of what we want to do in our lives. So we want to look at people and situations with attention, not judgment. And so it's kind of how part of it is how he felt towards God, affectionate awe. But then he didn't settle for this mystical singular thing between him and God. He wanted it to be a stance in the world. Here's how I will see people. So then you watch Boogie Nights and you go,
affectionate awe.
Pain,
Yeah.
wound, brokenness.
Yeah.
But then you kind of do that, how do you look at the insurrectionists on January 6th and you go, well, nobody healthy did that. I'm sorry. It has nothing to do with politics. None of us are well till all of us are well. And we both love Ram Dass. And it's like, walking each other home means you're loving people into wholeness. So I don't have to judge them. Nobody chooses to be unwell. It chooses them. And we're all on a continuum of, being not well. And how do we help each other just in this moment to be healthier, And it's not a once and for all health.
It's a breath by breath.
It's a breath by breath. And it's also healthy is holy and holy is healthy. I don't think anybody's ever met a holy person who wasn't healthy, I don't think.
And holy not meaning moral. I just want to point out.
It doesn't mean moral, and it also doesn't mean perfect.
Yeah.
But
it means whole. It means
whole. And so like
in the family of things.
Not to get political, but it's like people will say, well, Joe Biden is who I know, is a good, decent man. And somebody else might say, but Donald Trump, not so much. But I think we name things incorrectly. It's about, I think Joe Biden is a relatively healthy, well, whole person. And I don't think Donald Trump is. I don't have to hate him. I don't think he's a bad man.
You can have the same, look, I have to look. You can have the same affectionate awe.
Affectionate awe. And your starting points are, all of us are unshakably good and we belong to each other. Now you can roll up your sleeves. How do we help each other? How do we walk each other home? How do we, help each other be whole? And that was a campaign ad that was on buses for the LA County Mental Health Department. And it said, none of us are well until all of us are well. And I remember seeing that on a bus. I went, that's what I believe. Because then it's not about how could you be so stupid? Or these are bad people. No. It's like they're indicators of this is healthy or not so healthy.
I think this is why we love when Sarah Silverman or somebody goes to the house of hardcore Trumpers and you see, can we separate someone from a group and talk to a person?
Yeah.
We love stories of, like Green Book is a movie about somebody with complicated racial feelings with a black man, and we love those. We can't get enough of those. I often joke we don't have enough time for everybody to go on a cross-country road trip with a trans person or a black person or a gang member,
or a Trump supporter.
I mean, yes. I would love to have, I should watch What I Wish For, but like a bonding moment, a human moment with these people.
But Matthew Dowd, who is I really like and wrote a good book, whose title escapes me, but he was saying, he was talking about why did it take 100 years for Reconstruction? And he said, because a third of the American people do not believe that all men and women are created equal. And then he said, why does it take 60 years from Emmett Till to Donald Trump? And he said, because a third of the American people don't believe that all men and women are created equal. I think he's right. But now what do you say? A third of the American people are stupid or bad?
Or evil.
No, I go, well, it's an indicator that none of us are well until all of us are well. It's about wellness.
Healing.
Yeah, and it's about people need to, but they don't need to kind of figure it out, like, oh, now I see. Nobody healthy
Yes.
doesn't believe that all men and women are created equal. So it's about health, not, so when you see a man attacks an aged Asian woman on the streets of San Francisco, you go, oh, Asian hate crime. Well, no, it's not about hate. It's about health. Nobody healthy has ever done such a thing.
Yeah.
And so when you say hate, I denounce hate, well, then it's about me. It's self-congratulatory. And this is why we don't make progress, because we don't name things correctly. It's about health. It's not about hate. And then you can stand with affectionate awe at the guy who did that, because he's in pain that he didn't
unhealthy.
choose. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same for our families and our friends and everybody
Absolutely.
around us.
Yeah.
You said something that was similar to what Mother Teresa said. You said people are like, we're going to face hate head on. So they'll have a hate summit. And you're like, it would be better if it was called a health summit.
Yeah.
And Mother, I'm sure you know this quote. She's like, I won't go to an anti-war rally. Let me know when you have a peace rally. She thought that type of language was important.
Yeah.
Aligning with what you want instead of against what you don't want.
It creates a high moral distance, And
It's
it
also an
creates
ego
us
trip.
and them.
Yeah, it's an ego trip.
Exactly. It's self-congratulatory, I think.
As someone who's done it, I can tell you it is. Well, affectionate awe, not to get too heady, but a little heady, it seems to me that when I can, and I can do it right now, look from affectionate awe, is another way to say that. It's like looking from a state of being, almost like putting more contemplative looking, meaning looking without thinking, looking at something without labeling it. How many exercises are there where it's like, look at a tree, but drop the labeled tree and let it change you instead of you imposing your will on it? Let it into you. Richard tells great stories. You don't have to go to Jerusalem to meet Christ or anywhere. Anything, this couch, seen well, seen perfectly, seen honestly, would be enough to convert you if you could quiet your mind enough. So when you're looking with affectionate, so what are we doing? We're softening, we're being loving, we're being spacious. That's affection. Val has so much space for me. That's a good way that I think of her love. And I try to give her space. And then awe is appreciation, but it's also attention, but it's looking from, now we're getting heady, but being itself. I'm looking from the phenomenon of awareness, almost not even as Pete. Pete looks at you, I go, well, he's older, I can go, he might be bald, he has a beard, he has glasses, he's got a shirt with his, all that, and now I'm not even seeing you anymore?
Right.
Is it about how we see?
I think it's a lens, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a lens. And you find your lens, your mystical lens is what I would call it.
Yeah.
And it's a mystical filter. Like I have a spiritual director, Sergio, who's a homie, and we email every morning. And he always talks about the mystical filter. So we're commenting to each other like on the readings of the day. And you'll read Jeremiah and you go, yeah, I don't believe in that God that wants to, shower horrible things on us because we're wicked. I don't believe in that God. And he talks about, a time for the mystical filter. So he'll read it through the filter and go, oh, no, this is just human beings. It's scripture, but it's human beings, projecting onto God
Yes.
their own anxiety.
And
their
why
own fear.
wouldn't they have? Why would human beings stop doing what we've always done
Yeah.
just for the period where we were writing the Bible?
That's right. But they don't always do it. There's sometimes you go, oh,
They were there.
the God is tender, which is why Jesus quotes certain parts from the Old Testament and not the stuff. And I'm going to presume it's because he didn't buy it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think-
because he had a mystical lens that he would put on and he'd go, nah, once you know the God of love, you fire all
But
the other
isn't that
gods.
the whole picking grain on Sabbath thing? I mean, like,
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus was fierce.
He was.
This is one of my things that Richard really taught me was that, like, I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. We're drinking our liquid death water. I was going to joke with you. I was like, isn't it funny how much death imagery Jesus uses? How the baptism is like a drowning. I've said this a million times, but it's not gentle. I'm going to drown you. It is gentle too, but he's talking about you have to die. You have to die. You have to die. You have to be willing to let it all go. Again, I'm reminded of your homies, the ones on the street. There's like a certain urgency. You know, Jesus says God is burglar. God is wait for God like you're waiting for a thief in the night. There's a certain urgency that only comes when you're waiting to die.
Right.
That's in the Tao Te Ching as well. It's like careful as a man crossing a frozen lake. You know, that's it. When your hand is actually moving, where you're conscious. That's a
Right.
lens.
That's
That's a
right.
lens you're looking
That's
at.
right.
Right?
And if that's what you practice, what you work at, that's why it's you think you put the glasses on and you have the lenses, but you don't, you know. It's really a constant. And you know, Pema Chodron always talks about catch yourself. You have to catch yourself because you're starting to, you know, move up. It's not like sin, but you're starting to move away from affection at all
Yeah.
to the judgment that creates a distance, you know, that keeps it about me as opposed to delighting in you, you know, and that, you know, which is why I don't have a lot of patience for burnout stuff. You know, people always say, God, how do you burn out? How do you not burn out? But I always tell my staff, because I learned this the hard way, because there was a time when it was all about me. And I was trying to save, rescue, fix. You know, this is kind of obvious. But then you decide, no, you know, and no amount of me wanting that homie to have a life will ever be the same as his wanting to have one. So you have to kind of wait for it to happen. But you also, it can't be about you. If you're burning out, I tell that to our senior staff. If you're burning out, it's because you've allowed it to become about you. And it can't be. It has to just be, and it can't be about outcomes, which is sort of the idea of if it works, you know, evidence-based outcomes, which is the bane of nonprofits. You know, they all have to prove that it works. And I'm not interested, you know. You know, we're not called to be successful, as Mother Teresa says. We're called to be faithful. So you try to stay faithful to what you believe in as a technique or as a strategy or as a way of a lens.
But you don't want to be the one doing it, right?
Doing what?
Doing the fixing.
Yeah,
You're
no.
just made available.
No. Because if you're receiving people, if you're allowing your heart to be altered, if you're being reached by them, you know, your transformation will happen because it's exquisitely mutual. It's not me saving you.
Pardon the interruption, weirdos. Just another reminder, please go to homeboyindustries.org. Make a donation. They also have is it a 5K? 5K for charity for them coming up. If you like to run and help, I just like to send money and help and sit on my couch, but some people like to run and help. I also bought some Homeboy Industries, a t-shirt and a hat. It's a great way to support. Obviously, as we're discussing in this episode, at the homies, as Father Greg calls them, make this apparel, help make it, so you're supporting their jobs and their cause, which is incredible. And that's it. Also, we have another Pete's pick here for you. A real favorite of mine, which is feels. CBD is not about what you feel, it's about what you don't feel. Namely, stress, anxiety, pain. Feels is a premium CBD that helps keep your head clear and feel your best. It's hassle-free, delivered directly to your door. And CBD naturally helps reduce stress, anxiety, pain, and sleeplessness. There's no hangover or addiction. I have been using CBD for many years, and I can attest that Feels is absolutely as good as it gets. Helps me unwind, helps me with pain, helps me fall asleep, you name it. I even sometimes use it when I'm working because it just elevates my mood and helps me ease into what I'm working on, which is wonderful. Take a few drops of Feels under your tongue and feel the difference within minutes. The thing to remember about CBD is that finding your right dose is important, and every dose is different, and Feels even will send you a flight of different strengths of CBD to try, which is how I dialed in my dose. So if you need a dose of chill on the go, you can even try Feels' new CBD-infused mints for a clear-headed feeling with a bonus, fresh breath. In fact, Feels offers a free CBD hotline to help guide your personal experience so that you find your perfect dose. The Feels customer service team is dedicated to making sure you get the best use of your CBD. I love this company, and they're not just shoving CBD down your throat. They want to make sure you get the exact right one in the exact right dose. Good on you, Feels. Joining the Feels monthly membership, as I did, using this promo code, makes your self-care easy. You'll save money on every order. I can attest to that. The discount is substantial, and you can pause or cancel anytime. So start feeling better with Feels. Become a member today by going to Feels, FEALS.com/weirdo, and you'll get 50% off your first order, 50% off your first order with free shipping. That's FEALS.com/weirdo to become a member and get 50% off automatically taken off your first order with free shipping. Feals.com/weirdo. All right, guys, enjoy the last half of our chat with Father Greg.
This is something that I struggle with. When I get exhausted, it's because I feel like I've read enough and I've listened enough and I've been quiet enough or whatever. And then I feel like my tank is full, and then I'm not proud of this. I'll go out and I'll hose it out. Then it depletes. And I've run out of what I thought was compassion, but it was actually just an ego trip. It was just me going like, I know the quote for that. I know the passage for that. I read a book about that. And look at how calm I'm being as I say it to you. It's really show business. I mean, it really is like a persona. When what I hear you saying, it's more like a jellyfish or something. There's something.
Well, but you find the thing that's eternally replenishing, which is delighting in you.
Yeah.
Delighting in Leela and Val, delighting in the people you encounter and choosing to do that. Then it's eternally replenishing.
Yeah.
But if it's about you rescuing people or saving the day or being successful, then you'll be depleted. But I don't think there's anything wrong with exhaustion. I mean, that just means you're expending. and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's depleting is different than, I think, than exhaustion. Depletion means your battery, you've connected it, and it's actually losing power.
Yeah. What do you do if what if I was just not your cup of tea? Like this is easy. We have very similar beliefs and I think we're enjoying each other. This is easy.
Yeah.
So I'm having no problem to have affectionate awe. What do you do with difficult people?
Yeah, no,
What if I kept interrupting like I just did? Interrupting or swearing or saying blasphemous things or that I think you're stupid, you're a fool, Homeboy Industries is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Or what do you do with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think...
Have you ever been like, I know dangerous people?
And I know where you live.
Exactly. So. I was really hoping you would laugh at that.
And they have MapQuest.
Okay, there we go.
But, it's hard. I don't want to get like this is easy. It's not easy, because it's obviously it's easy to delight in people who are delightful.
Yeah.
But then how do you kind of, shift gears a little bit with somebody who's being absolutely, and it happens only every day at Homeboy, belligerent, hard-headed.
Yeah.
You have to make this little jump. And rather than saying, what an asshole, you kind of go, oh. I mean, it's hard to do, because you go, I'm not enjoying this person. But you start to appreciate. That's what affectionate awe is. And that's why you practice at it, because it'll come in handy and it'll be difficult.
I'll give you an example. Maybe it'll make it easier. Not that you did a lovely job. I'm just saying one of the things that I think makes this podcast work is I'm never hesitant to give you an example from my own life or the guests.
Please.
I was in Montreal and my mom texted me. She had texted me earlier and she mentioned that someone she knew had a charity and that they wanted to forward the information to me. Now already I'm on edge.
Yeah.
Like if you really want to know, it's not good what I feel when that comes through, because I'm like, this is about you. You want to get your son, your successful son, to donate to your friend's charity so you can feel like that. None of that. I don't know if you know Byron Katie. I can stop and go, is that true? I don't know if that's true. Like I'm getting all worked up about something I don't know it's true. But what can I do? I'm still getting very worked up.
Yeah.
But, I calmed myself. I took, what did Pema Chodron say?
You caught yourself.
I caught myself because I'm shaking as I'm replying to the text. I go, just don't reply. Take an hour and then reply. And that's one of the greatest life hacks of all time.
Yeah.
And I just wrote, send it to me. I'll take a look. And I wrote, and if I donate, I have all the information or something like that. But I'm trying to have a boundary and be like, you don't get to tell me, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
So then a couple of weeks later, while I'm in Montreal, she texts me again and she goes, I spoke to my friend and she said you haven't donated yet. And I'm like full uppercase fuck off. Like you can't do this to me. Uppercase. Just, I feel like a petulant child.
Yeah.
And it's very hard in that moment to have affectionate awe. What I tend to do, and I have to think that you would be in favor of this, is I find compassionate friends. I talked to my friend Laura Bites, who said, your mom can't put something on your to-do list, which I thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
People that validate my feelings, people that say it's safe and right and okay.
Right.
Let's not say right or wrong, but it's okay that I feel how I feel. I might even be wrong. My mom's intentions could be completely different. But I'm actually going to try and answer the question for you. It seems like maybe we need to give ourselves time and patience before we can have that affection awe, that it's not going to necessarily be like, well, Father G said have affection awe, so I should immediately be fine with this. Or what do you think?
Well, I think it's a stance. It's a stance of your own intentionality and choosing. So I'm gonna decide to do this today, knowing that you're going to be tested only all the time, by belligerence and hard-headedness and people who are in pain and are flailing,
I mean, that is, I don't mean to sell out my mom, but because we share DNA, I know in those moments there is a flailingness to it. There's a want for connection.
Yeah.
And I'll do anything to do it. I would even say she might even, I can't know, but my mom would rather I be mad than ignore her.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell?
That's right. Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
She's even told me as such. She's like, she'll poke right where I don't want her to poke because she'd rather I lose my temper than just be like, hi, Mom. I love you, Mom. She doesn't want that. And that's actually one of the things I like about her. She wants something real.
Yeah.
She wants the real stuff.
But it's hard for humans, because
well put.
Because we want to win the argument and we want to end up on top.
Yeah.
But I think, the reason we make progress when we name things correctly. And so when we can identify stuff, I wonder what that is. I wonder why she did that. I wonder what that means.
It seems so simple talking to you now.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mom,
but in the moment,
you're valuable. I see you.
Yeah.
I value you.
Yeah.
Like you say, I cherish you.
Yeah.
that it's so simple on this
Yeah.
couch.
Yeah.
But there I am at lunch and I have a show to do that night. But you're right, it's all identity. And when we talk about boundaries, it's like, what are those boundaries protecting? It's usually a sense of me on top, in control,
Yeah. Winning.
not vulnerable, winning.
Yeah.
Did you say winning?
Yeah, winning.
Yeah, I am a winning thing.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And now in comes mom, and I'm like, I'm a losing thing.
Yeah.
This can't be. And
Yeah.
then, as Val tells me all the time, she's like, it's not just the feeling, it's that you're ashamed that you can be made to feel that way so quickly,
Yeah.
and how vulnerable you are.
That's right. That's
Right? Isn't she
yeah.
wise? She's so good.
Yeah.
But
And it's being taken to that uncomfortable place that takes you from your center. And now you have to go perform and you're feeling kind of,
forget it.
yeah.
I've had a vulnerability hangover all week because there's so much, they're seeing so much of you.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy for someone who
no.
wanted to share themselves.
Right.
But when you have to do it that much for a week, I flew home and I was just going over everything I said. And I uncovered that core negative belief, which is I'm a bad boy. Like,
Yeah.
and then I listened to you for 10 minutes and I go, I've, not to change the subject, but I've had mystical experiences where I've been lost in that undulating fountain of yes and love, where the thought of Pete even existing as a separate entity was the funniest joke in the world.
Yeah.
Where
yeah.
I was just like, and yet I can still be on an airplane going like, I said that to that person. Was that okay?
Yeah.
And forget in cancel culture, it's really interesting and I'd love to talk to you
Oh,
about
yeah.
this.
That must be hard.
In my experience, it's like culture is caught up to how I was raised. It's like, we'll create a hell for you. We'll judge you and
Right.
we'll send you to hell.
Right.
And we'll cut you off and you're disgusting.
Yeah.
All those I'll spit you out of my mouth. That's what we're doing it to ourselves. And
Right.
I'm like, what took you so long? I mean, like, that was what I was doing when I was 11.
That's right.
But that's a great place to go is,
Well, can I just ask,
Please.
are you an extrovert or an introvert? I mean, because I don't buy just the fact that you perform. That means you're an extrovert. I mean, some of the best actors in the world are introverts.
yeah. During the lockdown, I think I learned that I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I mean, I can
extroverted
get up and
introvert.
speak in front of 10,000 people,
you're an
it doesn't. But put me at a cocktail party,
Forget it.
I can't do it. It's torture.
You'd be a good comedian.
Yeah.
We just find each other and talk about how much we hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I think I don't know where to put that in the mix,
Yeah.
because in terms of your own depletion, and yet you get energy on the stage,
Yeah.
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 And, but then you need your solitude.
So much of it.
Yeah.
I went to see Ram Dass, and it was one of the happiest weeks of my life, and I was alone for most of it. I'd do well in a hermitage, I think.
Yeah.
I would like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it depends. Now that I have Val and Leela, it's a little
Yeah.
less true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see them.
Yeah.
But can we talk a little bit about forgiveness and cancel culture? Just because I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I went to a party recently and there was someone who has been canceled. I didn't know they were going to be there. I have to say that. Isn't that funny? I have to be like, this was not my doing. It was
Yeah.
literally like
Yeah.
a surprise.
Yeah.
And I was in a strange situation where I was like, my spiritual belief, and it's how I acted at the party. I didn't blow them off. Because they were a person, and
Yeah,
I sat with them and talked to them, and I actually ended up talking about falling upward and how it's sometimes being broken and humiliated
Right.
is where God is hiding for us. And I also saw a little bit from them, some of that wisdom.
Yeah.
Not a spiritual person, talking about what they had learned and what they had gained from being sledgehammered.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was, in this case, who knows? I can't. That's
Right.
not my point.
No, I understand.
I know the internet wants me to take a side. I'm not even saying who it is.
Yeah.
Somebody I don't even know very well, but like
You were there.
I was there. And when it was a person, it was easy to talk with them and it was okay. And I felt okay about it and Val felt okay about it. But I would love to hear a little bit. Don't let me put words in your mouth, but I have to think you love people that have done things that are extreme, more extreme than what I'm talking about. I mean, on the, whatever you want to say, the
Right.
scale of crime.
Right.
But what do we do? What do you make of what's happening right now?
You know, it's funny. I'm not a big forgiveness person because I feel like, you know, and I feel embarrassed because I'm about to have a book come out that kind of, it's really a compilation of a lot of quotes and stuff from my other books, but it comes from a thing, a little thought for the day. It was a bumper sticker, and it says, "Forgive everyone, everything." And so that's now the title of this little book.
Forgive everyone everything?
Forgive everyone, everything.
I love it.
And yet, you know, I feel like we settle, you know, forgiveness requires that all parties are in agreement, you know, which is not how God operates, you know. So we settle for forgiveness when we should hold out for mercy. So mercy is something different. For me, mercy is a larger thing than forgiveness. Forgiveness waits for an apology. Mercy doesn't wait for anybody, doesn't wait for anything.
It was already given.
It's there. It's like, I don't need you, canceled person, to say anything to me. That mercy is.
Oh God!
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the green light. It's because then you love being loving rather than measuring stuff out, and then so.
But we want to measure. We want to.
We want to
heart
cancel,
on a
and we
scale.
want to cancel.
We want to cancel.
We want to cancel.
And put our evil into
That's right.
Afghanistan or Iraq or into whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then we can continue to deny that is in us.
Yeah. But forgiveness waits for somebody to do something. And there's no waiting in mercy. There's just no waiting. And again, it's hard to do when somebody has hurt you. You know.
Okay, would you make a note of that time? That's great. We make these little clips. It's a very transparent show. I'm like, that seems like a great clip to promote the show.
I just need to take a swig of my beer here.
Yeah. Yeah, mercy. Yeah,
I feel like I need to have like a paper bag to have.
Yeah, liquid death. The only water that you have to put in a bag if you want to drink it on your stoop.
That's right. That's right.
I was very moved by that. You know, it's interesting. It's what I was trying to do at the fest when I wrote out, I said, find the lowest person and love them, which is a funny thing to do. Obviously, it's what you're doing. But when you're doing it at a comedy festival, this is going to sound like a joke, but in my world, it's find the person that didn't have that great of a set and talk to them, or the stagehand that is clearly overworked and shuttling people to the airport or whatever it may be.
And then people are, how do you make that person feel less invisible?
I think it's a simple answer, and I'd love to know yours, but it's like eye contact, names.
That's right. Learn names, yeah.
It's okay, so I want to put this to you.
It's hard to do. I mean, it's it's intentional.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do.
But there's a power in saying somebody's name. I'll tell you this story, and I'd love to hear your take on it. I was on set, and when I was shooting this last TV show I was listening to a lot of very out there stuff, a lot of Vedanta and a lot of Ram Dass and a lot of like, it's all an illusion and it's very groovy, but it's a dream. And isn't it far out that we're having this dream and all this stuff? It's great. I like that. That's one of the ways I can go. But I need people like Mirabai and I need people like Valerie that will bring it to the earth and bring it to my body.
Yeah.
Because I was making the mistake. I've told this story before, forgive me, but I was on set and I didn't know the director's last name. And I actually thought that was kind of cool because she's the most important person on the set. And I was like, I don't even know your last name. And she was like, it's on the script. Like she kind of seemed offended, or not offended, but like she was sort of took note of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, again, I was being very righteous and I pointed out everybody's name that I knew. All these people on set. I was like, look, this is blah, blah, blah. Like being a piece of shit now that I think about it. I didn't do it in a cocky way.
Right.
I'm too worried about what people think to actually be an asshole. But I was kind of like trying to be like, I'm not an asshole. Look, I know all these people's names.
Right.
And I come home and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like things like names doesn't matter. It's just about being present and being loved. And then Val said what she often says to me. She's like, sure, it sounds like you had a Ram Dass moment, And I love Ram Dass, and Ram Dass knew people's names and stuff. But like, I had a very off the ground moment, and she was like, "But Richard would have been like, forgive me, I forgot your last name." "Oh, of course, Thomas.
Yes.
What a beautiful name. Is it Scandinavian? Oh,
Actually, it's
bless
a very good
you."
Richard.
Yeah, no, I do an okay Richard.
Yeah.
And when I did it for him, he was like, "Stop it. That breathy voice." And he put his hand up to slap me. It was one of the highlights of my career, to be honest. But do you relate to what I'm saying? The different altitudes? Like, there is ultimate truth of like, this is just God's dream, or whatever you want to say. Or you could say it's not real, or it's all fleeting, or it's a passing show, or what do you want? And then there is like, hello, Father Greg.
Yeah.
Isn't it just nice to say your name
Yeah,
and to look
yeah,
at you? Like,
yeah.
like you ever, it sounds like you don't struggle with it based on everything you've done in your life. But
Well, no,
spirituality is an excuse to like leave Earth.
No, I don't believe in the leaving the earth part.
Yeah.
You know, but it's all about, tenderness is kind of the highest form of spiritual maturity. So you want to, tenderness is a decision. It's not like a thing that you decide on once and for all, but it's how are you tender with people. And so the homies will say, we're used to being watched, we're not used to being seen. And because, they've
Wow.
been in prison.
Wow.
And so if you can create a place that's safe, then people can be seen. And then you can cherish them. And that's kind of the full Monty, you get to the place where you're cherishing people. But you have to, give some attention to it. I mean, it's all about being attentive. And paying attention is the hardest thing for human beings. For me, it is. Because you're getting ahead of yourself. You're lamenting what you did yesterday. You're anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow. And yet here you and I are talking on this couch, and you don't want to be any other place but this moment. But that's the hardest thing for human beings, I think.
And yet it can feel like a still lake. It feels so nice.
Yeah.
And yet we're all rivers going around.
right.
And it feels really nice that's why I was looking forward to this. I've been a
Once
river
you're
all
there,
week. Once
yeah.
you're there, you're like, why don't I go? It's like when you don't want to meditate or pray. And then once you're in the middle of it, you're not that it's always a good feeling, but sometimes it is.
Right.
And you go like, why was I afraid of this?
Right.
Because your brain will never think it's a good idea to get rid of itself.
Right. Because you got too much to worry about.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I really think that's
And do.
Yes. I think that's a thing with the news too, is I see I'll say perverse pleasure we take in talking about shootings and stuff. I mean like gory details,
Yeah.
and we share them with each other. And I almost see like a superstitious belief that of course all of us have in worrying about this. I'm actually doing something. Like my worry and my
Is a contribution.
disgust is a contribution.
Yeah.
It's super. Again, I say you've just caught up to where I was when I was 13.
Yeah.
If I think all about what a piece of shit I am, God is pleased. And now you're like, if I think about these horrors all the time, I'm carrying
Yeah, no, that's a
my
good insight.
piece
actually.
of the
Yeah.
grief.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't think that's actually good, right?
Right.
I mean, have you had any? And feel free to, because sometimes giving language to these things ruins them. But forgive me for asking, have you had any mystical experiences worth sharing or that you would share?
Yeah, I mean, in my life, I've had these moments where and Ignatius talks about the gift of tears. And so I've had that many times when all of a sudden I'm just overwhelmed and flooded with, a sense of, I remember in Detroit, I was making what we call the long retreat, which is 30-day silent retreat. And I just had these overwhelming moments of sobbing, And so, but it's not mystical in any kind of seeing something, more about knowing.
Yes.
And it's not about kind of being taken to some other place. It's always pretty rooted and right here and now.
That's similar to Father Richard when he's like, talks about being a little boy looking at his Christmas tree, and the whole experience is that he just saw it.
That's right.
It's like we're saying, like, if you could see this couch.
That's right. Or when you see people, when you know that you're, as kind of anchored in the present moment with somebody. It's mystical. But I think mystical is kind of where we want to be, obviously. And it's kind of a way of seeing. And once you see it, you do fire all the other gods. Once you see it, you kind of go, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not kind of good or bad or moral. It's really about seeing in the most expansive way is a joyous place to be. And then even in terms of kind of being authentic, staying close to the marrow of the gospel, as much as you want to do that, is really, where joy and fearlessness kinds of is sort of the mark, as opposed to being terrified and sad.
Joy and fearlessness.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And then when you feel joyful and fearless, then you kind of go, you know that you're kind of being faithful.
Yeah.
As opposed to frightened and just pervasively sad.
Yeah. My death anxiety, I don't suffer from a lot of death anxiety, but this past week at the comedy festival, my dreams and just my, those small moments in the morning before you put yourself on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like,
and what's that do for you?
I think it's again, I'll say perverse sort of, I think I like it. I think it's a trip that I'm like, I'm real. I am worrying.
But it's kind of helpful. I mean, it's kind of like,
Memento mori.
I'm going to be dead longer than I'm alive. And then you were talking about humiliation and the canceled person, that I kind of find humiliation is my compass. It kind of brings you to this, it's a cold glass of water being thrown into your face, and you kind of go, oh, okay, well, that's not bad. That was humiliating.
Yes.
But, that's not bad.
Well,
I like it. It kind of, because then you go, I'm going to be dead a lot longer than I am alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
or Dalai Lama always says, when they ask him about his own death, he says, change of clothing, which I love.
Yeah.
And then once you kind of go, change of clothing, then
change of clothing.
Because this young woman this morning was my 256th young person killed because of gang violence. And it's not a trick so much as it is you have to put death in its place with a quickness. Otherwise, it becomes so dark, Otherwise, you have to kind of say, if death is the worst thing that's ever going to happen to us, you're going to be toppled by life itself, So then I've had to kind of do that.
If the worst thing that can happen is something that's guaranteed to happen, you're going to have a hard go.
Exactly.
It's very interesting.
But, I don't know who said none of us will live forever, but all of us can live in the forever. And so...
Live in the forever.
Live in the forever. And so there's your choice. I'm going to live in the forever today,
Would you say there's something eternal in you and I?
Yeah.
I would too. I was loading you up.
Yeah, no, certainly.
There's a spring. It's so funny.
What do you mean a spring?
A spring. There's a self-generating source.
Oh yeah, like a source of
that's
like water spring.
Like a water spring.
Yeah.
That
a well.
when you set a well or a fire or whatever you want to think of it as. So in my experience, that experience I was alluding to earlier, it was a psychedelic experience, but I think it was very sacred. And I felt like when we die, we go in, we don't go out, that was the big takeaway.
Yeah.
Is I was like, where you go when you die is actually where you already are and have always been. And it's actually the only place to go. So it actually took this fear of crossing a chasm where the
Right,
river
right.
Styx, or like
Yeah.
you're going somewhere, you're going off into the cosmos. It's like you're actually going the only place that there is. You're going home, is a nice way
yeah.
to put it.
I like home.
I like home too.
Yeah.
But it really was experience. It was like a swooshing below me, and there was like a upness to it. But I was like, oh, I was there the whole time, which is a very common
Right.
mystical
Right.
knowing. I was there the whole
Home.
time. Yeah,
It's exactly where, it's kind of where you began.
it's where you began. But
Yeah.
then you talk about, if you'd like, spirituality being about like unlearning, like meaning we come as children. And I think, again, Richard talks about one of the reasons we're so fascinated with babies is because they're still connected often. I know they cry, and I had a baby recently, but like they can be so close to that home that we
Yeah.
just want to hold them. I know they're adorable, but hold them and kiss them. I want to be where they are, sort of thing.
But then there's the sameness of it. All of us are born wanting the same things, and we're human beings, and so we all share the same last name, beings. And so how do we, because that happens a lot, where people feel like choices. People will say, how do we help these kids make better choices? And I go, wow, not all choices are created equal. And it's really not about choices. Choices is, it's a kind of a projection that people say, where especially about the population that I work with and walk with, is, how do you get them to know the difference between right and wrong? Well, it has nothing to do with right and wrong. They were born into the world wanting the same thing you wanted. And terrible things happen to them. I don't know how else to say it, and so it's not about choices. It's about, I don't know, chances. And it's about somehow finding our commonality as human beings that and we have to let go of it. It's unlearning things, but it's jettisoning things, You just toss these things off the boat,
Yes.
And I'm 68 years old, and I'm still doing it, where you go, yeah, I don't, good and bad, there is no such thing as good people and bad people. And once you let go of that, you kind of go, God doesn't see good people or bad people. God sees God's people, and there's a kind of a sameness, and it's not about measuring. God, I think, is always saying, what's all the measuring about?
What is that? God is terrible at math, or God can't add and subtract?
Yeah.
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 Which is just a funny way of saying,
right.
It's already done.
Yeah.
It's already done.
Yeah.
I don't want to derail us into a discussion of free will, but sometimes I take comfort in the fact, and human beings don't tend to like this. I'm like, I don't know, man. I think I'm a part of a thing, a whole thing. And even me saying this right now, you could trip out and get paranoid, but I'm just kind of like, I'm a result of all of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Meaning it's not so much that I don't have free will, it's more that I am responding to the whole. I'm not subject to object. I love the word undulating, but the whole thing is undulating in the same way that a wave kind of thinks it's a wave, but I'm really a relationship, if that makes sense. And it's less about whether or not I do the right thing or the wrong thing, or it's perfect or it's not perfect, or whatever that means. But I'm a part of the whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think so. And I think, how do we, have greater, a greater, larger, wider kind of way to receive people, rather than, our presumption that God is wanting us to kind of be better at it, when it's, I don't know why this, like when you talked earlier about lapping God, but it's what you will do with Leela, and what any parent does with a kid is, unconditional love doesn't even get close to it.
Yeah.
There's a no matter whatness to your love.
Yeah.
That it's like you don't want anything from your kid. You only want for your kid.
Yeah.
And how much more so God.
Yes.
And that's, I don't know why that's so hard for people, to understand.
I think I think it's one of the reasons why Jesus was always using Abba and Father imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And when I actually have a joke, we call them bits. I have a bit about it. It hasn't really been working. I think it's hilarious, but I made my daughter dinner and I gave it to her. She was watching TV and I put it down and she just started eating it. She didn't say thank you. And it occurred to me, I didn't care. I don't have to tell you that. I didn't care. But it occurred to me maybe I should say thank you. And then I was like, you know what, man? I yanked her into existence. Like it's my doing. Obviously that's not exactly right. But I was like, I brought her here. Like the joking way would be like, it's my fault that she's here.
Yeah.
So she doesn't owe me shit.
Right.
Like, and then I kind of turn on my parents. It's like, your father worked hard to send you to college. It's like, yeah, that's what he should do. It's very similar to Sidney Poitier, his speech about your parents you don't owe your parents anything. But what I'm experiencing as a parent is like a genuine, like, you don't owe me shit. Full stop. Like you don't have to say, thank you, Daddy, for dinner. I'm like, I got to cook you dinner. This is incredible. But why it can be so hard to make the jump that God feels that way about us.
Right. That we're in debt.
Richard has another beautiful, sorry to keep quoting Richard, but whenever we talk about these things, he's in my mind. And he says, like, all of our little efforts to please God, I hope I'm getting this right, but he says they're sort of adorable. They're like when our kid makes a drawing and it's supposed to be a cat and it's really bad, but we love it and we put it on the fridge. He's like, that's like us. It's not that we did it perfectly. It's just that you are.
Yeah.
It's done. It's like what you were saying about mercy. It's done.
Right.
And it's like what I experienced in my experience. I was like, it's all done.
Yeah.
We're both already, we're alive and we're dead. It's all at the same time almost. It doesn't even make any sense.
And it's knowing that you're at home. You've been there all along.
You were there the whole time.
That's right.
And you were there and you were there. It's like Dorothy at the end of The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly, truly great. I'm feeling deeply satisfied by this conversation. I hope you're enjoying.
Likewise.
Okay, good.
We've been doing this for like 9 hours. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been a while. Has anyone ever told you sound like Jim Gaffigan? I was listening to you on a podcast and I was like, this sounds like Jim Gaffigan.
I love Jim Gaffigan.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
A Catholic.
Yeah.
Well, I have other things to ask, but I really feel, I feel great. I feel like we did
I
it.
feel badly. You've been
it's
sitting here for...
A typical episode is 2 hours.
Is it really?
Yeah, 2. Sometimes I think our record is almost 4 hours.
And then you cut stuff out?
No.
No?
That's my own little message that everything belongs.
Yeah.
It all stays in. It all stays in. Here's a question I really did want to ask, and I know you were at a funeral this morning, and then we'll have a couple quick questions and we'll get out of here.
No problem.
But what do you say at a funeral that's not aimed towards improving the community? Because on your 60-minute piece, there actually was you speaking at a funeral, and using it as a great opportunity to talk about how are we going to stop this, and that's
in those days. I did that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just sometimes for all of my spiritual study and stuff, if a tragedy happens, a young man or a young woman is beaten to death or shot or whatever it may be, I'm sometimes talk about it humbling. I'm humbled by the fact that I'm like, all I do is listen to Richard and Merton and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And yet, if a crazy tragedy happens, sometimes I'm left to be like, I really don't know what to say. You're uniquely qualified. What a sad thing and also what a beautiful thing. You've had so many of them. What do you offer to grieving people? They're grieving people listening. They're grieving people. They'll always be grieving people. What is something that you offer in terms of comfort or perspective or?
Well, again, we can't help but quote Richard, but part of it is like holding the grief, holding the pain until it transforms you. And so that's kind of even if you don't say that, that's kind of where you want people to be. You know, but you also want people to connect to memories, you know, like the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. It just points to the moon. And so in what ways did this person touch you in such a way that it pointed to the moon? It revealed the kind of God that we actually have. Not the God we've settled for, but the God we actually have. And then you can kind of reconnect, especially if you have stories about people, you know, even though it's so tragic. But in the old days, I remember it was always cautionary tale. It was, you know, Lefty who died would want you to put your guns away, that kind of thing. I remember I did that a lot.
Yeah,
I did that a lot, but I don't do that so much anymore because, you know, it's people want to make sense of death, you know, and how do you really communicate that death has no power? How do you not allow it to take hold of you, you know? And you also kind of dispel nonsense about, you know, why did God do this, you know? And
how do you do that?
well, I mean, God didn't have anything to do with it, you know? And I'm a big believer in God protects me from nothing and sustains me in everything. A homie the other day.
You couldn't unpack that enough for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I mean, like in terms of prayer, because I don't believe that prayer works, but I believe that praying does.
I love that.
Yeah, only in as much as it's sustaining me. Like it's funny when I was in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, actually had dinner with Mirabai and this homie Fabian and a woman named Laura who works at Homeboy, and he's an artist and. I don't know, we were talking about prayer before we actually had dinner with her. And I said, well, Fabian, what do you do? And he goes, I just sit there silent and I say, hold me.
Wow.
And I loved it. And he's a gang member, former addict.
Hold me.
Hold me.
What a good mantra.
Yeah, and I use it as a mantra. And ever since then, I kind of just
hold me.
Hold me.
That's like Abba. That's like Daddy.
Yeah, because it's not about, you know, help me pass the algebra test. Right. You know, it's not a thing I can do, and there's not a thing you can do. But you can hold me. And so then it's sustenance, you know?
Yeah.
And you kind of do that at funerals. You kind of say, let's hold each other. Let's walk each other home. Yeah. Let's live in the forever because we're all going to die.
Yeah.
But let's live in the forever.
Don't look away from it. Let's look at it.
Right. And you know.
But it's funny that I asked you for hope or because that's what we want from funerals. I want you to tell me that.
Well, and also grief.
I'm okay.
You said grief.
Yeah.
You know, and how do you make sense of it and how do you hold it long enough so that it transforms you?
Yes, to use it. But death not being the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
Nobody
and
is.
The worst thing that can happen is not knowing the God of love and finding your true self and loving. So I think I always try to do that in a homily about a homie who's gone too early. Before he left us, he came to know his true self and loving. And then you can always find examples of when he did that and he was that and he inhabited that with some fullness. So you can always tell those stories because they're all there. They're always there.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, then the fate worse than death is not knowing that. And he knew it. He felt it. He had it. Yeah. He showed it to you.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're connecting to a larger love that says to death, like as a homie said to me once, who's dead, but he said, death is a punk. Death is a punk. And homies understand that because they go, punk is like more bark than bite.
Yeah.
He's a punk. He talks that way, but he's a punk.
Wow.
And homies know exactly what that means. And if you say death is a punk, oh, okay. And it's in its place. Suddenly you've put it in its place.
Right. Right.
Which is
Wow.
like scripture, you say death wears your
Sting.
and
Yeah.
or they said of Jesus, death couldn't hold him.
Right. And Ram Dass has that thing where he talks in, it was the 60s or early 70s, and he's like, oh, you're hung up on death. Here, I'll show you. Like, you can kill me. Like
Yeah.
he humbled himself to death.
Right.
And
that's
death
right.
on a cross.
That's right.
It's like that idea that he's like, to me, I grew up believing that Jesus was something to be worshiped again, and to be, I'm not saying I don't love Christ. I'm just saying now I see it as much more urgent, and it's like, you do this too. Like you do this as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm modeling a human life. And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like some degree of transformation, some degree of realizing that death is a punk.
Yeah.
Some degree of not buying into the myth that, we're all supposed to be billionaires on rocking chairs, smoking cigars. I mean, is that it?
Yeah.
Heated toilet seats?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. But how are we surprised by death? It's kind of astounding to me.
It's the most inevitable thing.
It's the only thing.
It's
that
the
will
only
only that will happen to absolutely everybody. And yet we're utterly
I'm going to do
gobsmacked when,
Yeah.
oh my God, he died? Well, yeah.
I'm going to run another bit by you.
Yeah, please.
I
throw a
yell
bit,
at the
throw
crowd. I go, you're afraid to die? You're afraid to die? I go, Shirley Temple died. You're more of a candy ass than Shirley Temple? You laugh. I'd like to take you on the road and watch how that joke does not work. I go, my Nana died. She didn't even speak English, which I think is so funny. But to me, that's me calling it out, going like, everyone does it.
Yeah.
You should actually take comfort in the fact that everyone does it.
Yeah.
Cavemen died alone in a desert, just like dehydrated.
Yeah.
You can't do that? It's every single thing that's ever been like you has done it.
Yeah.
There's like a comfort in the lineage, in the rite of passage.
Right.
In
the sameness of it.
Chinese spirituality, death and love are the great gifts that most people leave unopened.
Yeah.
And Ram Dass is all about that. And I believe that the people that were present at his passing, I think I don't mean to idolize him. I'm just saying I think he did it. I think he was not afraid to die. In fact, that was one of my favorite Ram Dass stories. I was with him in Maui, and Dasima, who was taking care of him, was like, he almost died a week ago. We were so scared. And here's frail little Ram Dass, looks like a skeleton in a Hawaiian shirt, basically. Yeah. And he tugs on her and he goes, not me, not me. Yeah. And he knew I needed to hear that. You know what I mean? He knew we all needed to hear that.
Yeah.
But I believed him.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because he didn't buy it.
Yeah.
He didn't buy it. Taking off a tight shoe. That's what he always said.
Yeah. But that's also wholeness and holiness.
But yeah, we reject a huge part of the whole system.
Yeah.
This obsession with longevity. Let's upload our consciousnesses to computers. Death will be obsolete. Ray Kurzweil, make it to 2054 and you'll never die, basically. I don't know if you've heard any of that.
No, I haven't, no.
He's the guy that believes if we make it to 2054, the singularity will happen, which I believe is AI. I'm not an expert. It's like AI and the merging of technology and biology, nanobots cleaning your arteries.
Oh, I'm not interested, but yeah. Yeah, I wanted to.
Somebody called me twice. Sorry. My phone's always on Do Not Disturb, but they called twice. They know it'll ring. So I thought maybe it was, forgive me.
Something, sure.
And here we are I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Likewise. Clockwise, the homies always say that.
Clockwise?
Yeah.
Clockwise.
And you said likewise.
Conservate? That was one that you put in an email to me. We'll sit down and conservate.
Conversate.
Conversate.
Yeah, that we say. And we were there. We were we were conversating.
I love it.
Yeah.
Authenticious.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. Authenticious? That's a real word. See, real words.
Authenticious? No.
No, it's
there's
not.
no-
Yeah, authenticious is not a real word.
Yeah.
All right, that's the right one then. These are the questions I ask everybody. It's more interesting to ask you. Have you ever almost died?
Well, I've had leukemia.
Oh, did you?
I went through chemo,
Okay.
and I wouldn't trade that time for anything.
Tell me what you mean.
Well, just because, I would get homies would leave me voicemail messages. Now it's our turn to take care of you. Very, very sweet. A big, huge homie named Grumpy came in and said, what, big tears in his eyes. He says, what do I have that you need? Meaning organs,
Oh
I mean, it was just nonstop. I remember a homie came in, a little guy, and I was going through chemo at that point. I'd come to the office, and he got the news kind of late, and he was they were so stricken by it,
Mm.
And he says, I hear you have leukemia. I said, yeah, I do. And there's a kind of an awkward silence, and he says, my cat had leukemia. And I said, oh, yeah, she died. And I said, oh, God, awfully glad you stopped by.
That's
really
ready to go.
lifted me up
It's a
there.
good bit. It's a solid bit.
But and then the homies would drive me to chemo and pick me up, which was clearly more harrowing than actual receiving chemotherapy, was having the homies drive me.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God, horrible drivers. And of course, I'm a horrible passenger.
I am too.
Yeah, horrible. Because
Yeah.
if I'm not driving, it can't happen. So
Yeah. I knew because I told Christy, I said, I'll send a car. I was so moved that you were doing it. And she was like, he likes driving himself. And I was like, I decline every car I'm offered
yeah.
as well.
I've never,
Yeah.
except sometimes they insist.
Yeah, that's happened to
Yeah.
me too. They want to make sure you get there.
Yeah,
on time.
which just seems crazy, but oh well.
But you can control what you listen to. You control, like, you
Yeah,
can
that's
drive. I even thought about you. I was like, I don't know why something you said made me think of the opportunity driving is, to be, we say on the show, you say something similar, to be the universe winking. We keep waiting for the universe to wink at us, but you forget what an opportunity you have to be the universe winking
Yeah.
at anybody that some, you would call them an idiot that just made the absolute goofiest left blocking. And you can stop. You can be the one that stops and goes, I think I've done something like that myself.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
something really beautiful
Yeah.
in that. So what's the state of your leukemia now?
I'm in, as homies say, I hear your cancer's in intermission, And I always say, apparently it stepped out to the lobby to buy popcorn.
Yeah.
May
That's
the
great.
line be long,
But isn't it, this is another Ram
But
Dass thing.
it's also kind of one of those things where
Maybe.
every year I've almost had to have something, radiation or whatever. But all during the pandemic, it was for the first time ever I didn't need to get anything.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm okay.
But you must run into what I started to say was Ram Dass believes that the church, the modern church now, the doctors or the priests, like we worship life
yeah. Huh.
and we'll lie and the doctor will come in and tell the patient how good they're doing and go in the hall and be like, they won't last the night. Like there's no honesty. And he made not a living. He wasn't being paid, but he would be the one that would go in and say, I understand you're dying or that would want to name it.
Yeah.
Talk about the thorn again to get under it
Yeah.
and just be like, no, I'm not going to deny this. Like how many of us die in a moment of denial?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's not opening the present. So this is a blunt question, but how do you feel about your death now? Like I was having all that death anxiety. How are you doing with the thought of it? The inevitable thing.
I really have to pee.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not my death. It's
Let's take a pee break and we'll do that.
Yes, of course.
But do you still do it?
Not really.
Wow, because you're good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's funny and clever, but it's also just. And then I look, I go, oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah, that's your name.
yeah. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, no, I love the New Yorker.
I always
Wow, to have 4 cartoons in the New Yorker. That's huge.
see. That's how you know I'm a 3. Is that I figured out the exact number I could do that would be impressive, and then I stopped. You know what I mean? I was like, there's no difference. in impressiveness between 4, maybe like 44, but like 4 and 7, it's all about the same. So I got in, and it was too much effort. But I'm glad you liked it. These are mine too. That cat and that,
It's great.
and Batman hugging the Joker. I like that one. That's mercy.
You should keep doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We're just coming back. We both had a bathroom break, and there's
God, that was intense.
there's a urgent. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've
This has been great. This has been so enjoyable.
yeah, for me too.
Yeah.
And we were just saying,
death. You
yeah,
were asking
death.
about my death.
As we just had such one of the great joys of life is a
Yeah.
good pee. Tell me,
Yeah, I'm not afraid of death, and I ask myself sometimes, is that true? Yeah,
he's in frame.
yeah. And I just,
What do
am
you
I
mean?
okay?
Oh yeah, you're good. Just because you moved, I was checking.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it true that you're not afraid of death?
Yeah,
Or
I-
are you in denial?
No, I think I'm truly not.
Oh, I wasn't asking you, but that's
Yeah.
what you ask yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and but you do ask yourself. You kind of say, "Is that really true?" And I think it is. I've been around death a lot. So I've had to put it in its place, and so I have had to do that for myself personally as well. And then having cancer, and and then at least initially thinking, yeah, this probably will end in death sooner than not. And it didn't, And then you're also aware, we were talking about earlier about how doctors, they make so many, the advances are kind of extraordinary, and every month there's a new thing, a new treatment. Let's try this, So, yeah, but I don't think I am.
I'll ask you what I asked Richard. He had a beautiful answer, and you'll know what it is. But I was like, what do you think the chances are? Because I was thinking about death, and I was like, when we die, and again, even having been in that oneness and all that wonderfulness, I'm like, what do you think the chances are that it's something odd or confusing or strange or overwhelming? Like, the Buddhists train for the bardos.
Right.
For the idea that they're going to travel through something and they're going to have to keep their center while a giant ear flies through the sky or whatever it is.
Right.
Or like a fire made out of cotton candy and there's their mother in it or something, and they just kind of have to float around and not be attached, and then they get to go into the void or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, that reminds me, those types of thoughts remind me of my fundamentalist fear of hell, that God is somehow not to be trusted, that he's going to want to send me into a fun house filled with mirrors and, Skittles coming out of my nose or whatever it is. And Richard was just like, the saints always trust that God is trustworthy. God is worthy of their trust.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, do you have any remnants of that feeling? Like, what if it's something weird, or what if it's something frightening or strange, or I guess it's based on my psychedelic thing. Like I'm less interested in psychedelics than I used to be, and one of the reasons is, my life has changed. But I'm also like, I don't want to smoke something and be a frog for its entire lifespan,
Right.
and then come back and be like, I was a fucking frog. Like, that doesn't
Right.
sound fun for me.
Right.
But then I'm like, the afterlife, or what happens at the moment of death, could be just as strange, or can I rest in that just hold me place? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. But I don't think about it too much, because I'm not afraid of it. It feels like rest. I trust God. I don't believe in hell, or like the mystics would say, okay, there's a hell, but I think it's empty,
I forgot that one. I love that one.
And so I believe that kind of thing. So I don't really, what are the chances that this trustworthy God is going to pull a fast one,
Right.
0. There's 0 chance of that.
Yeah.
So so then, everything becomes more spacious and more wide and more inclusive, and which is so frustrating, kind of in a church that isn't inclusive and doesn't really reflect the spacious God we actually have. So that's hard always, But, I think it's trustworthy.
That's it.
The God that we actually have.
And Ram Dass talks about that. We either have our personal experience, this is in Be Here Now, or we can trust those that came before us, your Christs and your Buddhas. Like I would like to have the conversion experience myself, or when in doubt, you can trust those that had it.
Right, that's right.
Brought the message back.
That's right.
Yeah, if we weren't lucky enough to get knocked off our donkey.
That's right.
I know there's no reference to the donkey. Well, thank you so much. The final question for today is, can you, and I bet you have a good answer, can you think of a time you laughed from your belly? That's how I'll ask you. But a time you laughed really hard, from your stomach. Just if there's a memory where you're crying with laughter, what were you doing? How old were you? What happened?
I don't know. I have so many of them, and I've written so many of them, and isn't that funny that when you're asked to recall one, I can't.
I actually would do very badly with this question.
Yeah.
How about the one?
But for me, it's a constant thing at Homeboy, and where people, because being able to laugh from the stomach is also, there's a freedom where you don't have to worry about what people will think. Or
speaking of New Yorker cartoons, there was it's a cartoon where it's two aristocrats on a picnic blanket, like in the 1700s. And they're going I'm all for joy and ecstasy, but those ridiculous faces, or something something about how gauche it is to make the faces and the sounds. And I was like, yeah, the Victorian period was really against laughing so hard you fart, for example.
That's right, exactly.
But I mean, isn't that what we also really want, is to laugh so hard you fart?
We long for. Yeah.
And my answer is always the time I made Val laugh so hard she farted. And it made us die.
Even more.
To be that safe.
Yeah.
And isn't that holding and it belonging and being safe and all of that? So,
but you take it for granted. You think it's just about funny people making other people laugh.
Yeah.
But it's really about safety, where people feel safe and the comfort. It's about home. If we're all walking each other home, then there's no greater reminder of home than laughing from the stomach, And that's, you want to kind of create a place that's safe enough where people can experience that,
Yeah, because who was Val when she was laughing so hard she lost control of her body?
Yeah.
She wasn't really there. I mean, she was the most there than she could be.
She was out of body experience.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so much love to you. People can donate to Homeboy Industries, a $25 million a year endeavor, if the number hasn't changed.
It's $40 million.
40 million, okay.
Yeah.
Inflation, times are changing.
Yeah.
And I love that you said that even though Obama gave you that award, that the government's donation has been negligible or something.
Yeah, it hasn't been too much.
It's not too much. So I'm only mentioning that to say, let's donate. Let's do recurring donations to Homeboy Industries. Yes. And check out your wonderful books. And I'm just so grateful for this time.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.
Of course, it's so silly, but we have the guest say the catchphrase, which is "Keep it crispy."
Keep it crispy.
Without hesitation. I guess another way to say it is "Don't be a punk."
Did Richard say "Keep it crispy"?
He said it twice. Keep it crispy, huh? You gotta keep it
Seriously,
crispy.
the best. Oh, why do you not include it in your act?
Who knows who Richard is? I mean, I do. Yeah. It's a lot of my best
I know enough to
impressions
go, wow,
are
if
people.
I had my eyes closed.
Yeah. Hello. Father G. Well, thank you so much. Let's go.
You made it